Hello everyone and welcome to another episode on the Sports Stories podcast. I'm your host Seiji McSwain, and for today's episode I'm going to be going over the top 10 NBA teams that haven't won or that didn't win a championship or a finals championship. And there have been a lot of teams here, but I'll just be going over the top 10 teams, the most notable teams that they were really close and they just ended up not cutting it to win a finals championship. Now, starting off at number 10, I have the 1990-91 Portland Trailblazers. Now, at the time, the Portland Trailblazers were really good. I mean, over the past 3 seasons before this season, they made 2 trips to the finals and 1 appearance in the playoffs, I believe. And so, at this point, Clyde Drexler was really making a name for himself. Obviously, so was Michael Jordan around this time. But I think the best group for the Trailblazers in this time span was the 1990-91 squad. I mean, they had the best record in the NBA at the time, led by Clyde Drexler, obviously Terry Porter, Kevin Duckworth, and Drazen Petrovic. So overall, a really good team. But when it really came down to it, they ended up having to play against Magic Johnson and the Lakers, and you know how the 90s Lakers were, so they were going off, and the Trailblazers really just couldn't do much. They tried, but no avail. They ended up losing in 6 games in the Western Conference Finals, and will end up as one of the best teams to never win a finals championship. Now, with the 9th spot, I have the year prior, speaking of the Lakers, the 1989-1990 Lakers. And obviously, this team was amazing. They had Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Vlade Divac, Orlando Woolridge, and then obviously coached by Pat Riley. And this team was elite. They ended the season off with a 63-19 record, which was one of the best records in the league at the time. And I mean, they made it to the playoffs. I mean, everything looked like it was gonna go their way, up until they lost in 5 games to the Phoenix Suns. Okay, lost 5 to a 5th seed Phoenix Suns. 5th seed Phoenix Suns. They lost in 5 games, and it was really tough for the Lakers at that point in time, because mainly they were just such a great team. Nobody really expected them to lose. I mean, they made it to the finals the year prior, and then also won the finals 2 years ago, or the year prior to the year prior. So basically in the past 3 seasons up to this point, the time of this Lakers team, they won the finals, and then they lost in the finals, and then they had the best record in the league, and they weren't able to make it to the finals. And I mean, it was a really great team. Just looking at that roster, just looking at what they had overall, just a really great team. And who knows, if Magic Johnson would have won the finals this year, he would have had 6 rings on his career. So overall, I think that would have propelled him up to GOAT status, or at least further than what many people have him as. I feel like he's somewhat underrated as of now. Like, as of today's standards, I don't think he's as highly ranked as he should be. I mean, he really revolutionized the game, especially in the passing game with, the flashy passes, but also playing as a guard, as a big guard. It kind of revolutionized the game in that way. So if he had won 6 rings in his career, who knows how we'd be talking about Magic Johnson now. Now, coming at the 8th spot, we have my 2005 to 2006 Detroit Pistons. It kind of hurts me to put this, I was born in 2005. It was my team. But, it's tough to put them on this list. But obviously, after shocking basically the entire world, beating the Lakers in 2004 for the NBA Finals, a lot of people had a lot of high expectations for the Detroit Pistons, and they did deliver in the regular season, ending with a 64-18 record. Now, obviously, they're on this list for a reason. They easily coasted over to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they played the Heat, which kind of seemed like everybody was like, the Heat, kind of a bad team, put them up with the Pistons. Everybody really thought, you got old Shaq, this kid named Dwayne Wade. I mean, who is he? But the Heat's shockingly, I mean, not really shockingly, but I guess now if you're looking at it in hindsight, but now, I mean, they have Shaq, who's a really great player, obviously in the post. Even later in his career after he left the Lakers, I mean, he was still good. So, and you got Shaq there, just coming out of the Lakers, and then obviously Dwayne Wade, which is one of the best shooting guards in all of NBA history, and it was a young Dwayne Wade nonetheless. And the Pistons ended up losing in 6 games in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Heat went on to win another championship, and just giving Detroit another year for waiting for another championship to hit the shelves. So it's tough now. It's tough, because you can say the Detroit Pistons last time they won in 2004. Okay, now you got to say that. You could have said 2005, one more year, Maybe would have made it look, a tad bit better. They probably wouldn't have won another championship. Who knows? Maybe they would have. Maybe they would have added more players. Maybe made better decisions in draft picks. But other than that, just overall, just didn't end up that good for the Pistons after 2005. Now, next at the 7th spot, I have the 1995-96 Seattle Supersonics. Now, the Supersonics ended the season with the second best record with a 64-18 record, second to only the best, probably one of the best teams in NBA history, the Chicago Bulls, which ended 72-10. Now, the Supersonics did their thing in the playoffs. I mean, they beat the Sacramento Kings, Houston Rockets, and Utah Jazz to, proceed on to the NBA Finals. Obviously, they're going to be facing the Bulls here, and they ended up just not being able to win. The Bulls ended up winning in 6 games to the Seattle Supersonics. And I mean, overall, this is probably the same thing that people will say about Patrick Ewing, is that Patrick Ewing would have won a ring if it weren't for Michael Jordan, and this Supersonics team would have won a ring if it weren't for Michael Jordan, okay? Because if Michael Jordan weren't there, would the Bulls have done a 72-10 season, okay? And would they have even beaten the Supersonics in the finals? Who knows? But obviously, I mean, the Supersonics just were a great team. They finally found their rhythm. And Sean Kemp, Gary Payton, I mean, there's the dynamic duo that we all know and love, and they played great. Just mainly it's just Michael Jordan, and the Bulls. They were just a really strong team, and they were able to overpower the Supersonics. So, again, it's another instance of if it weren't for Michael Jordan, the Supersonics probably would have won the championship. Now speaking of Michael Jordan, coming in at the 6th spot, I have the 1996-97 Utah Jazz. Now the Utah Jazz, they were doing their thing, okay? They were doing their thing. The past 3 seasons they lost, I believe, in the Western Conference Finals. Obviously, the previous year, losing to the Supersonics, which I just said, in the Western Conference Finals to make it to the finals. And this year they finally made it to the finals, but, again, I mean, it was a treacherous path. I mean, they had the Clippers, the Lakers, the Rockets, but they had to face Michael Jordan and the Bulls. And again, just another instance of where if Michael Jordan just didn't exist, we would probably have talked about these teams a lot differently. But the Jazz, they had to play against Michael Jordan. Obviously, game 1, they had the shot where Michael Jordan hit the game winner. And then in game 5, obviously headlined by the flu game, which I did cover on a previous episode on the podcast. And the Jazz ended up losing in 6 after that flu game. And just overall, I mean, poor performance by the Jazz, in my opinion. They really couldn't get it done. Past 3 seasons, they made it to the Western Conference Finals. They finally make it to the finals, and they just couldn't beat Michael Jordan and the Bulls. So I guess that's another common occurrence that'll happen here. So Michael Jordan is just ruining teams, okay? Great teams in the NBA. He's just ruining them, okay? He's He's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna hit this shot real quick. Boom. Oh yeah, I'm gonna play with the flu, in quotation marks, air quotes, because again, I did cover that in another episode. But then also just him just being Michael Jordan. Okay, it doesn't make any sense. But the Bulls beat another team in the finals, and just kind of preventing Karl Malone and John Stockton to have really legendary careers, or at least more than what they already have in the NBA. Now, coming in at the 5th spot, I have the 2008 to 09 Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, overall, it looked like a really great season put together by the Cavs, and especially led by LeBron, coming on his sixth season in the league. Because he was drafted in 2002, so yeah, about 6th season in the league. And I mean, they ended the season with I think the league best 66-16, and they swept the Detroit Pistons and Atlanta Hawks in the first 2 rounds to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they met up with an Orlando Magic team led by Dwight Howard. Okay, now you're probably hearing that name like Dwight Howard. Laughable, okay? Dwight Howard, what's so scary about Orlando Magic? Dwight Howard was a different type of Dwight Howard, okay? That was another Dwight Howard. I don't know what happened. I'm pretty sure Dwight Howard got cloned. That's my only other explanation, because Dwight Howard just fell off the earth. I mean, he kind of came back with the Lakers that one year that they won the championship. And he was pretty good with the Rockets, but there's nothing like that Orlando Magic Dwight Howard, So he was doing his thing back then. And I mean, most notably in the series for the Cavs, LeBron James hit that game winner to tie the series at 1 apiece at the end of game 2. But other than that, there was nothing much for the Cavs to do. They ended up losing in 6 games to the Orlando Magic, and I believe the Magic didn't end up winning the championship that season. Can't remember who they had to play. For some reason, I can't remember. But overall, the Cavs season was really good with LeBron, but I think he just needed more of a supporting cast. But overall, I mean, it was a really great season by the Cavs, great season by LeBron. But I mean, there's another common occurrence though with these teams. They keep losing in 6 games. So they at least win 2 though. They make sure to win 2, and then they just don't know what to do with the rest of the 4. So, but other than that, I mean, it looked like a great season. Stat line, everything looked great. I just think they just couldn't get it done at the end of the day. Now, coming in at the 4th spot, I have the 2006 to 07 Dallas Mavericks. Now, this is probably one of the greatest teams in sports history. They had Dirk Nowitzki, who averaged 24.6 points per game, Jason Terry, Josh Howard, and Jerry Stackhouse, just to name a few players on that team. Overall, I mean, if you think about how good the Dallas Mavericks were back then, this is mainly the team that a lot of people think about. And as for this season, it's kind of obvious that they're going to make the playoffs, but they just wanted to know who's going to play in the Western Conference Finals. It's either going to be the Mavericks versus the Spurs, or the Mavericks versus the Suns. And at the time, the Suns had Steve Nash. And then the Spurs, obviously had the whole Spurs team of Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. And they hadn't had Kawhi Leonard at this point, I don't believe. So, it was overall, those 3 guys, and Dirk and Steve Nash, those 3 guys were really up for a Western Conference Finals appearance. But unexpectedly, the 42-40 Golden State Warriors, led by Baron Davis, beat the Dallas Mavericks in the first round in 6 games. So the 42-40 Golden State Warriors with Baron Davis beat one of the greatest teams in sports history in the first round in 6 games. Didn't go to 7 in 6 games. Again, another pattern that you'll see in 6 games. But overall, it was really surprising when I heard that, because I mean, nobody really thinks of Baron Davis as a great player, but he was great. He was great on that Warriors team before Steph Curry showed up. kind of revolutionized the game there. But Baron Davis, always a special person in the Warriors franchise, and it was great. It was great kind of diving back into these teams because of, the different names that you see pop up, or just like the teams, like the Golden State Warriors. Like, nobody really remembers them being good back in the day. So, it was great seeing those teams back in the mix. But yeah, just looking at the Dallas Mavericks roster, they definitely had a championship winning team. I think, they just kind of got beat out by the Warriors that year, and proved to be just, too good, I guess, in the first round for the Mavs. Now, coming in at the third spot, I have the 2015-16 San Antonio Spurs. Now, I feel like this team was actually really overlooked during the season, and they were clearly one of the best teams in the league, obviously behind the Golden State Warriors at the time, which, that team was really doing their thing. Overall, it looked like they had a really good team. Again, they had Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and at this time they would still have Kawhi Leonard. So overall, everything looked good. And a lot of people, were excited to see the Spurs and Warriors Western Conference Finals matchup. But instead that never ended up happening. And so in this season, the Oklahoma City Thunder beat the Spurs in the second round in a 6-game series. And man, just imagine seeing Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant on the same team again. Is crazy that they actually played in the same team. And I was actually able to watch those teams, which is crazy. But, I'm sorry. So the team was playing great. But yeah, in the second round, the Thunder really just came in. And this is the kind of the season that kicked off everything, with Kevin Durant being a snake and everything like that. Because after the Thunder beat the Spurs in the second round, they moved on to the Western Conference Finals, where they ended up playing against the Warriors, which then the Thunder lost, and then KD went to the Warriors. So, who knows what would have happened if the Spurs ended up beating the Thunder? Would Kevin Durant still be in Oklahoma City, or would he have still gone to the Warriors, or possibly even gone to the Spurs? But, at the end of the day, who knows? But, it's just great to speculate on that and see, the what ifs if these teams really won, and how it would have changed the league. Especially, if Kevin Durant never played against the Warriors, would he have known how good the Warriors are, or would he have even considered leaving OKC, leaving Russell Westbrook? But overall, I guess we'll never know. Maybe an alternate universe where the Spurs won. Maybe we'll see. But, that one was kind of a shocker. But, Spurs just couldn't get it done with one of probably the best teams in the league. Now, coming at the number 2 spot, we're gonna go way back. I have the 1972-73 Boston Celtics. Now, at this time, the Boston Celtics had the second best regular season record, ending with a 68-14 record, led by John Havlicek, Dave Cowens, JoJo White, Paul Silas, and Don Nelson, who are just some of the players that were actually Hall of Fame members from this squad. And they easily eliminated the Atlanta Hawks in the first round. But in the Eastern Conference Finals, they had to go up against Willis Reed and Walt Frazier, for the New York Knicks. And this one was pretty tough. Havlicek ended up having a shoulder injury in this finals. So that kind of really hindered the Celtics' performance, and they ended up losing in 7 games to the Knicks. So if the Celtics were able to win another championship, the Celtics would just been too good of a team. Okay, like, that's another banner. They probably would have been more elite. I think they're currently tied or near the Lakers in team or organization wins, or finals appearance, or finals wins. So overall, if they were able to win that one, who knows how we'd be talking about the Celtics. I think they probably would have been still one of the best teams in all of NBA history. Now, with the number 1 spot, you gotta have the 2015 to 2016 Golden State Warriors, okay? Gotta have him here. Now, obviously, I just talked about the 2015-2016 San Antonio Spurs, so I don't have to go over the entire Western Conference playoffs. But obviously, this team ended with a season, or I guess record-breaking record with a record of 73-9. Okay, so obviously everybody was like, they're winning the championship, undisputedly winning the championship. They're one of the best teams in all of NBA history. They've had the best record in NBA history, so obviously I think they're gonna win the championship. So yeah, as I already talked about in the Spurs segment, the Spurs ended up losing to the Thunder. So the Thunder really took care of the Warriors' number one, worry in the playoffs. So they had to go up against the Thunder, and the Thunder actually had a 3-1 lead against the Warriors, but the Warriors ended up rallying back, winning, and then going to the finals to play against the Cleveland Cavaliers. But just when you beat a 3-1 lead, you create a 3-1 lead. And the Warriors created 3-1 lead over the Cavaliers. It looked inevitable. Okay, the Warriors winning a championship just seemed, like the storybook ending. A two-peat, back to back. You win championships. Move on. But the Cavs rallied back from a 3-1 record, or a 3-1 lead, and they ended up winning the series in 7. As LeBron's only championship back in Cleveland, he ended up winning that one. So it came around full circle, okay? Earlier in the video, I talked about LeBron James and the Cavs 2008-2009. And now, in 2015-2016, at the end of the video, we get LeBron winning a championship with, another pretty good Cavs dynasty, but, not really, but it was there. I mean, it was like a 3 years... It was a 3-year battle with the Cavs and Warriors. So, I mean, it was a great run. It was great. It was boring, but nevertheless, it was a great run by both the Warriors and Cavs in that 3-year span. But in all, the Warriors ended up losing to the Cavs in 7, and kind of actually, ending probably one of the most promising seasons from a team of all time. I mean, I don't think anybody's really going to be beating this record anytime soon. I mean, winning 74 games in a season is a pretty big feat, and you're going to need a great team to do that. And the Warriors were a great team, so you're going to need a team better than the 2015-2016 Golden State Warriors to beat that record. So overall, I think that's why I have them at my number 1 spot, is just mainly because of that record, beating the NBA record for the most wins in a season, and also just not being able to win, especially coming back from a 3-1 lead and then losing a 3-1 lead the next series. So it's just incredible to see that. But that was all. If you have any other teams that that you thought were probably one of the best teams in the league that just weren't able to win the NBA Finals, leave it down in the comments below. And while you're down there leaving a comment, make sure you hit the like button and hit subscribe. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, make sure you hit the follow button and leave a 5-star review. That'd be very meaningful to me. So thank you. If you do, go ahead and do that. It is free. But since that is all, please share the video with anybody that you think, or episode with anybody that you think would be interested, and that'll be all.